Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name's Luke, and I'm honored to have a regular guest of the show and a friend of mine and a Pennsylvania high school wrestling legend, Gavin Teasdale, back on the show. Gavin, welcome back.
Appreciate having me on again.
I always appreciate you coming on the show. You were the 13th Pennsylvanian high school wrestler ever in the history of Pennsylvania to win four high school state championships every year you were in high school. Pretty incredible things back in your past. But you're on the show to talk about an upcoming, your second professional MMA fight is officially going to take place for LFA, their 155th show at Niagara Falls, New York, March 24th. What's it like to be exactly a month? I think 2 days ago was a month. So what's it like to be a month away from your second pro fight?
It feels good. I got a lot of weight to lose, but I know what to expect now. It's at the same exact place. I'm going to go in there, stick to the game plan. Unlike last time, this one's going to be a different outcome.
Well, last time you went all 15 minutes in your pro debut, lost a decision, which of course is frustrating. We talked about how the last 10, 15 seconds of that fight, you were by far the fresher fighter. You were landing, I believe, an elbow and a knee in stand-up, not just the wrestling portion. And you were on the show at the time to kind of talk about what you took away from it. So why would you say there's going to be a different outcome? What have you learned, and what's it been like training after you went those hard 15 minutes?
You learn a lot every fight, but yeah, whatever's open, you got to take it. And I'm starting to feel comfortable with striking. Like my first fight, I really didn't feel comfortable in there, and it was like kind of deer in headlights when I first fought out there, and I ran right into a kick. But I learned from that. My second fight, I was 8 months of training into it. My first fight, I only got like 2 months of training. The second one, I got like around 8 months, and like now it's right around like a year and a half. So I'm well equipped right now. I have knees, elbows, whatever's open, I'm gonna start taking it. But I'm not gonna go out there and look to be a striker like some of these wrestlers that are in UFC like right now. Like I always stick to wrestling, and if they stop my wrestling, then I'm gonna get to my striking. But yeah, I feel confident going into this one. Training camp's been good. Just got a lot of weight to get off.
Well, I think that's a very wise and even mature mindset, because you're right. A lot of wrestlers at the UFC level, they kind of rebel against the wrestling roots they have, and then they want to become a pure striker. Whereas you're saying you are always a wrestler base, and you're gonna use that to go forward. Now, you've mentioned having to lose a lot of weight to make weight cut. Is this a 35-pound fight or a 25-pound fight?
25-pound. The dude I'm fighting, he's been at bantamweight the whole time, but I fought 125 last one. First fight, I fought 135, so I feel confident at 125. It's but I really started watching like in wrestling. I started watching it 2 days out. Now I'm starting to get smart with it and watch it 3 days out, because my organs took a toll because I cut too much weight in short periods of time. I remember before I cut like 22 pounds in 2 days and ended up in the hospital, so I can't do that anymore. But day before weigh-in, you got to get to your most competitive weight class because everybody's cut weight and stuff.
Sure. Well, I'm glad, you've obviously, it goes without saying, you've had a lot of wrestling experience, but there is a difference when in high school, you might have had to weigh in two times in the same week. And so the weight cutting is a little bit different. I'm glad that you have a better game plan going in to your third MMA fight and your second pro fight, which is obviously very.
You gonna come up and watch?
I hope to. Yeah, I know that.
I get some tickets. The next 247 one's April 14th, right?
April 15th. It's Brawlenberg 16, April 15th, which is a Saturday for 247, and that's at the Meadows. And I'm sure the shop in India will have several guys on that. In fact, you do. You have Ken Burrs on that. You've got a lot. I've been interviewing a lot of yours. I had a funny experience on the Niagara Falls, New York, on Canada side years ago. So I'm glad this is on the New York side and not the Canada side, because it was a experience I don't want to relive. But for you,
we were 4 hours from here. People think like New York, it's like a long distance away. It's just straight north going up through here. It's 4 hours.
Yeah, and obviously you're going up there. We're going to have Taylor. Taylor's going to hopefully come on the show to talk. And then Jay Manning, although you, Jay, and Taylor are all from India.
Diet plan.
Oh, there you go. I am
25.
So this is a very important question. Do you like original Cheez-Its or the white cheddar?
Honestly, whatever. And like usually like right before a weight cut, like that last week, I really pile on the bad stuff. So it honestly makes it tougher on myself.
Ah, okay,
But
for
I like white cheddar.
yeah, I'm an original guy. The white cheddar is, I think, a step down, but some people are a pure white cheddar as better. So, but to get a little bit back on topic, one thing, I mean, I can see that you're doing this interview from the shop. You, the Cahill brothers, you're a coach there. What's it been like coaching at the shop? And I know yesterday was districts for a lot of the high school kids you have club wrestling for. How did that go? What's it like being a coach for high school wrestlers?
It's good seeing our guys transition from practice over into matches because like a lot of them they're in their own head a lot. So I try to talk to them just about like the approach going into a tournament. Like practice, the practice room wrestlers, the match wrestlers. You should wrestle the same exact way no matter what. But wrestling's honestly 80% mental, 20% physical. So I honestly help them off the mat more than on the mat. Like obviously I help them with their technique while they're in here for an hour and a half. But I just like seeing them accomplish their goals. But we had a lot of our guys win the tournament. I think we had 6 champs yesterday, and they were back in here today. So I just went over different techniques that they were doing wrong in their matches, and it's cool seeing them won it.
It's cool that they won it so much that they were champions yesterday at the district level. And now they're back in today to continue going. Explain a little bit. I know we have a lot of high school wrestling fans that watch when you're on the show, but how many more levels do they have to go to get to states? Districts was yesterday. What else is left to take those group of guys to see how they do at states?
So it's weird is District 7 goes sections, regional or sections, whippeals, regionals, and states. Up here, it goes districts, regionals, and states. So there's like 3 regions. It's District 5, District 6, District 7. District 7 was where I was from. District 5 is up here. But then that they all meet up there at regionals next week. So it's gonna be like 3 districts, and then the top 6 go on to states.
Gotcha. Well, thank you for breaking that down, and that makes sense. It's also cool how you tied it back into Jeff Morgan. What's it like competing against the Jeff Morgan Rockets? You know, your alma mater, and is your head coach or coaching staff when you were there still there? Do you kind of talk to them now, coach to coach, as opposed to coach to athlete?
No, my coach he left a year after I
Oh,
graduated, but down there now I think it's Troy Barnhart. He's the coach. But I go down there and I help out some practices during the year. I think they got a younger kid, Alex Palco. They got Chase Formelli. He's doing real good this season. But yeah, I go down there and help, and it's cool seeing. I think they got like 60 little guys in their program.
mm.
It's like when I was there, they about dropped the program because we only had like 5, 10 people, and now there's like 60. So it's good seeing wrestling on the rise.
That really is cool to see wrestling on the rise. Another of the 13, I mentioned at the beginning that you're the 13th of the 13 uh, Pennsylvania four-time state champs. And earlier, you'll know this name, of course, because he was also a Jeff Morgan Rocket, was Kerry Colott in the late 80s, early 90s.
He
So
wasn't bad at wrestling, was he?
what?
I'm just kidding.
He was okay.
He's a pretty tough wrestler.
Yeah, he was okay. He's got a street named after him in Rice's Landing. You gotta work on that in the Jefferson area to see when your street's
They told me
coming.
they were going to give me a son, and they never did it because I think the town commissioner got like fired or something, so it never ended up happening. But no, I got put in like the Hall of Fame like down there, and me and Colette have a picture side by side in our gymnasium.
Oh, that really is cool. And of course, I'm glad to hear that that high school wrestling is taking off at Jeff Morgan. It would, I think, with the pedigree that has come out of Jeff Morgan, Kerry Colon, as you mentioned, it's shocking that Jeff Morgan High School in Greene County, Pennsylvania, almost got to the point of reducing their wrestling. So I'm glad that it's up and running, and obviously you're a big part of that. And we've seen that anytime there's a famous athlete like you winning all four, I'm sure it got the kids in middle school and elementary school excited about wrestling. So hats off to you and to the coaches at Jeff Morgan. For you, as a coach and a current professional MMA fighter, do you like that balance between pushing your body physically and mentally for competing and also pushing yourself as a coach? Is that kind of a nice balance between the two hats?
Yeah, I was just talking about it with parents this morning. I said I wish I would have coached before I would have wrestled. Because like your whole outlook on the sport changes when you start breaking techniques down. It's like, oh, there's a lot more that goes into the sport than what you see. It's like breaking down like double A. They don't teach you how to level change, how to penetrate in the shots. Like a lot of coaches just say penetrate into. They don't teach you how you should bend your knees before, how you should shoot the shot. They just say stud or doubles, and they don't teach you how to like shoot through the legs. So, yeah, my whole outlook on the sport has changed, and that's why you hear a lot of old timers say, "Man, I wish I would have known what I know now back in high school." But I honestly, I feel like I matured like a lot quicker, like when it came to that. Like I could see the sport and like break it down. Just I could see a weakness in somebody's style before like I wrestled him. You could watch him like one match beforehand. If he was a three things that break down a wrestler's strength, speed, and technique. If they're all three, it's going to be a tough wrestler, but there's usually a chink in their armor when you actually break it down.
Well, that's a great mindset to have for anybody watching this. The four-time state champ, Gavin Teasdale, just gave you kind of a cheat sheet, the 3 ways to break down an opponent. And what you just said, really, you would watch in your high school days one of their wrestling matches, be able to break that down. In the professional MMA world, do you also look at it as strength, speed, and technique? That would make sense to keep that same breakdown strategy. Is that how you're breaking down?
You can do that to a certain point, but there's just so much combining in one in this. I mean, you're combining Muay Thai, you're combining kickboxing, you're combining striking, you're combining jiu-jitsu, you're combining wrestling. So it's a lot more things to worry about, and that's why it's so crazy, because you get knocked out by any one of those. You could go in for a shot and get hit with the knee. You could go in and get hit with an elbow. There's just so many things that are open. Just me going for a jab, I get kicked in the face at the same time. And it's not like boxing gloves where you can cover your whole face. These 4-ounce gloves, you can either cover your chin or the back of your ear. So like pick one. You're going to get hit in this sport. And it's just a matter of if you're not in good position the whole time, it could happen like that. So you got to make sure it's technically sound. Everything's perfect when you're out there. Kind of like a tournament. That's what I told our guys in wrestling. We train all year for 4 matches at the state tournament. And all lasts is 24 minutes usually altogether, depending on if you get like a bye or not. But you have to be spot on because you only get 6 minutes while you're in there. And that's what you work the whole year for. Like when you break it down, like the Olympic title, we train our whole life for that. And it's not more than 6 hours. It's one day. That's like, holy crap. We put so much into this dang sport that your little time you're out there. Like why would train an hour and a half a day for a 6-minute match out there? You know, I think like different simulations, kind of like playing wrestling, learning techniques, one thing, but for 6 minutes, that's all you're training for. It's kind of crazy. But for fighting, it's 15.
It is. It is crazy to think about that. I often make the comment when I'm commentating for 247 Fighting Championships that for every minute of an MMA fight, there's hundreds of hours of training. And that's not an exaggeration. You're talking about wrestling. When you get into a cage and fight 15 minutes or shorter, of course, come March 24th, you will have hundreds of hours, maybe even 1,000 hours of training, conditioning, wrestling, sparring, all that into it. I want to give you the opportunity because you mentioned that it's going to be a different fight. You're transitioning to MMA very quickly. You mentioned some of the timeframes came from wrestling right into your amateur debut and then into your pro debut. What is your prediction for March 24th? And if you're not going to make a prediction, what would you like to at least see out of yourself March 24th?
I'd like to see myself in combinations. Because last time I only knew 1-2 punch, and I came out a lot, and I would leave my face open. So hitting a lot of combinations, keeping my feet underneath me into kicks, just kind of combining it. Like, you know, you combine wrestling one technique into the next, starting to combine striking into kicking, into knees, into fakes, into takedowns. The last fight, I could only hit like a 2-punch combination. I didn't capitalize on submission. So those are 2 different things that learn how to lock up a choke now. So if the submission's there, I can take that. Now I learn how to hit a 5-6 punch combination.
I mean, that's leaps and bounds of development, right? It doesn't matter if you're brand new in the sport where you're still new to it, or if you're 10, 15 years from now, continuing to add to the level. Like you said, MMA has, I mean, you might say 8 different big things if you talk boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, grappling, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, but there's even more nuances to each one of those. So I think it's great that you're working on multiple punch combinations and finishing submissions. I'll be excited to see kind of how the fight goes and whether or not your punch combinations and submissions end up kind of making a difference in the fight, which obviously you're planning on, and I can't wait to see what happens for you. So that's really exciting. As far as, and you're a high level athlete and now you're a pro MMA fighter, developmentally wise, because you won high school states as a freshman and then had 3 more years of that. Where do you think you are on in your own mind, on your development plan for MMA? Is it, I mean, nothing's going to be perfect, but are you developing the way you want to? Is this the direction you like going in MMA?
Yeah, it's in this. You got to be a self critic. So if you see a weakness, you got to fix that next practice. And honestly, you got to like obsess over. You got to lose sleep at night because of that. If I'm getting hit in the kick, I'm gonna remember that next practice. I'm gonna make sure I'm not gonna get hit in the kick. So it's hard because you can't act like that in the role, but you got to be a self critic in this stuff. You got to call yourself on your bullshit. And some people are, oh, well, I did this, I did that, good. No, you got to focus on honestly what you did bad.
Mm.
Sometimes it can workouts to get better. Like usually, if people would lose in a match, they could get better. Like I remember Noah, he used to wrestle, and when he would lose, he would get better the next match. And some people take it that way, and some people take it the other way. They get worse, and then they get all like depressed afterwards. But in this stuff, you learn more as you go through your mistakes. If that makes sense.
Well, that's the mindset, I think, of a champion, right? Of course, he's recently lost, but Charles Oliveira was a great example of a guy that had been in the UFC, wasn't really a high level guy, and then he just started putting all the stuff he was learning together, went on an insane run, got the title at 155 for UFC, and I think that's kind of the mindset you're talking about, where every round of sparring you want to learn from what didn't work just as much you do from what you did. Let's get to the point where I always try to ask, do you have sponsors, people you want to thank, shout outs you want to give? Obviously, as you develop your career, that's a big part of the career process, giving back, gratitude, being humble. And so I want to give you that opportunity to do that as we look forward to you fighting March 24th at Niagara Falls in New York for LFA 155.
Yeah, just coaches, partners. I like to thank them beforehand and everybody that was there along the way, even the haters.
Well, I appreciate. Sorry, I was chuckling about the haters reference, but it is
You
true.
know how it is on social media.
I call, yeah.
And they see you in person, they're all hush hush.
Well, that's right. I like, my personal term is keyboard warrior, because I think that's really what people are, right? They feel free to write things on social media that you would never say to somebody in person. And if you did say it to in person, that's another line to cross, right? That's even worse. But oftentimes keyboard warriors. But I do think we've seen it a lot where if you can be motivated by people encouraging you and saying, hey, Gavin, I believe in you, that's great. If you can also be motivated by people saying you suck, that's great too, right? Because now you're getting motivated either way. You're getting motivated.
I used to take that stuff to heart online. I used to like respond and get pissed off like little 8, 10 like girls for like talking crap like online. But like now I mature along the way and I just take it for a grain of salt. But I used to pay attention. That's why I tell these wrestlers, so like when they're younger, just stay off social media. Don't pay attention to the rankings before states, because it's some of that stuff it can piss you off.
Well, and you mentioned, and I think this goes to the sort of almost the sports psychology. Preteens, teenagers, their mind thinks differently about what's said about them, right? We all remember middle school when somebody makes a tease or a comment, it sticks with us for years. And as an adult, it wouldn't bother you nearly the same, right? Because our mind's developing. So I think that's great coaching, particularly for the younger wrestlers or fighters out there, is stay away from what could really become mental poison, and really you wouldn't eat poison in order to think that it would make you stronger as a wrestler or fighter. So you wouldn't want to consume poison from what people say on social media. I think that's very wise, particularly at the competitive level of who you're currently coaching. I appreciate you coming on the show, Gavin. It's really an honor. It's cool that we got to do this not only a month out from your fight, but a day removed from a really successful coaching time that you and everybody had from the shop at Districts. And I think it's cool that you're doing both at the same time. So thanks so much for coming on the show. You've been listening to Gavin Teasdale, upcoming fight at the pro level 125 pounder for LFA. Thanks so much for coming on.
Appreciate it.
Got it.